then I would imagine to Ben and Cooper, just maintaining the same rotation as we saw yesterday. That would make sense.
I think they would, that does make sense. And it also gives Felipe Fraga, say, the maximum drive time behind the wheel, but certainly as much as her own is, because they're pretty equal at times.
First time I've noticed this at turn 19, a warning for Lucas Stoltz and the number 90 TalkSport WRT World Race Team for the Mercedes driver. Track limits at 19, that's the tricky downhill, very fast and committed left-hander at the end of the lap.
I think Luca will be into the pits at the end of the lap that he's currently on. He's just gone on to his 32nd lap on this stint, and say the car was unlucky, the TalkSport car unlucky with that timing of the Code 60, which Jeroen Bleekemolen was gracious enough to admit that they hadn't been that lucky with the first Code 60, but thereafter they've pretty much fallen their way. What I didn't quite catch was when he was talking to Nick.
12 hours left to go, so 11 and a half hours remaining of the race. That's a long period of time for a set of brakes.
Subject to the way conditions are.
Yeah, that's a lot cooler this morning, and we have seen some cars having the brake cooling areas blanked off a little bit this morning, and some of the radiator ducts. 131 has come through for a penalty.
You say it's a lot cooler this morning, but it's actually a lot warmer than it's been any other morning since we've been coming to the track. It's already up to 50 degrees Fahrenheit out there. That's 10 degrees Celsius, which is just off the high that we had yesterday. So it's a big difference temperature-wise from what the competitors are used to. And we're expecting a high today of close to 70 degrees.
Two things from the pit lane. The 131 Andy Burry car came in through the penalty box but didn't stop in it. So whether he was just straight lining it to get to his pit easier or he forgot to stop. And we've got the second place car in.
In and out already, in a very good stop that way. Lucas Stoltz out, didn't quite see who got in, but they have done a quick stop. That was one where you timed them based on the tyre change, and they were almost gone when the last tyre came out. So TalkSport there putting a pretty good performance in. Luca go down his haunches thing, almost though he's had a bit of extra work, but he's now up and bouncing about, chatting to his engineer, and we'll see if we can go row with him.
That's Nick Damon in the pit lane, and good morning everybody from Johnny Palmer taking over from John Hindhoff for the second portion of the race. We are now firmly into the second half as well, with a mere 11 hours and 33 minutes to go, and quite clearly some drama for one or two up and down the pit lane, either late last night or early this morning, and the attrition rate of this rather unconventional 24-hour race with the split in the middle still very much there, and we found that from the off. Okay, the first two cars to drop away, they were decisions from the team to just utilise one of their cars of the two, but we had a very early retirement for Atlanta Speedworks, sadly, with their dark blue Honda Civic FK7. The Winward Racing Mercedes as well, going with a coolant problem. And the 70 car is out, of course, after we had a long chat with Nick Foster yesterday. Let's go back to Nick Damon in the pits.
With Lucas Stoltz, fresh out of the 90. That was a pleasant early morning run.
Yeah, it was definitely not so easy, starting on really cold tires. I think it was like 4 or 5 degrees this night, so the 3 warm-up laps really helped. But yeah, even the first 3 laps were pretty slippery. Tried to find Jeroen a little bit, but I couldn't manage. There were just some better tires. Still had a lot of fun. Really pushing hard now in the last stint. We tried to get back the lap. I think now we are 2 laps behind because we were a little bit unlucky with the Code 60 again. But yeah, it's still a long way to go and the race is not over.
Is there anything you as a team can do to make up the gap, or do you have to hope you get the luck of a Code 60 going your way or a problem for the Black Falcon team?
Yeah, well, you can always push a lot and try to find them. Maybe hope they have a problem. But yeah, there's not much you can do. But if you're lucky with a Code 60, you're soon back to the lead lap.
Well done, thank you.
Lucas Stoltz out of the TalkSport WRT. I thought that was interesting, saying he chased down Jeroen Bleekemolen and just a better set of tires for your own. Sure.
Well, to be fair, that's actually a good excuse,
Yeah.
because the top sport car, remember, didn't change its tyres just before the end of last night's race, whereas Black Falcon were able to. So Black Falcon were on a relatively new set of tyres first thing this morning, whereas the top sport car, A, didn't have so much fuel aboard, and B, was on an older set of tyres, so they came in for an earlier stop, top sport, before the Code 60 happened. And then when the Code 60 happened, Black Falcon were able to get in, so that was unlucky for them. But what has happened now is that with the pit stop for Vern Blakenburn and handing over to Felipe Fraga, Robert Renauer owes us a pit stop probably at the end of this lap or the next lap, but at the moment he's actually back onto the lead lap. So Robert Renauer, it is only a brief moment, but he's on the lead lap, so there is still enough. I mean, the Black Falcon car has the upper hand, but as Ryan said, it only takes about 40 to go, 60's not quite to go their way, and Herbert are ready to pounce.
I guarantee you it's not Alfred Renauer that'll...
Or in reserve for the final stint as well, when sometimes the run to the flag can be very intense indeed. But interesting that Jeroen Bleekemolen was put in to the Black Falcon car, so they've obviously exchanged duties between he and Felipe Fraga. They're sort of plug-and-play drivers, though, really, and competing for fastest times.
We said yesterday it's a fueling issue.
Yes, still 10 laps off the pace for the number 41 HB Racing Ferrari. Third in class, but 3 laps behind the next in class, which is Car Clutch Motorsport. And Max Edelhoff behind the wheel of that Audi right now. So...
Still waiting for Robert Renauer to make this pit stop. He's gone 32 laps now in the Herbert Porsche, which suggests to me that the car is working very nicely indeed. That's the best stint they did yesterday without the help of the Code 60 was 28 laps, so they managed to extend because they took tyres and came in fairly early on for a fuel stop before the Code 60, then came in for a fuel stop during the Code 60, so Robert's got probably 120 litres aboard that car and has used it to good effect in this portion of the race, but it's just gone round again.
Exactly.
33 laps now on the stint.
Well, Paul, you'd better push the button on your computer that has the box this lap flasher on his dashboard. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Done. Do you think they're...
For Robert is that he's gone this full distance and they've now got getting towards the very end of the tank. It's 120 litre fuel tank. When he comes in for fuel, he's only going to be able to put 85 litres in. So whoever goes in the car next won't be able to go as far as Robert has done on this tank.
Which is what they did yesterday, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, obviously the priority, as there's a very sideways moment a few seconds ago for Max Edelhoff, an indication of how hard the car collection Audi is pushing. That was approaching turn 3, and Max Edelhoff running in second position, trying to keep up with the CP Racing Mercedes of Shane Lewis. That's a very interesting battle within the A6AM category. Let's welcome a new voice back to the pit lane. Joe Bradley was working very hard till late last night, returning this morning, and the Volt Racing Porsche is in.
Yes, it is. I think it's Trent Hinman who we've just seen battling with the CP Mercedes, so we're going to have a great chat with him and just get some inside information on how that panned out for him. I would suggest that the tyres on this Porsche weren't really up to the job to hold back Shane Lewis in that Mercedes. The 73 Porsche now got brand new Hankook tyres on it as it wheel spins in great style. Great style for a Sunday morning wheel spin of the Porsche as it makes its way to fueling. I'll get back to you when I've found Trent, who's just darted to the back of the garage to get his helmet and his gear off.
Okay, Alan Brynjolfsson taking that car over and heading now into the 20 km/h limited fueling area. A question of exactly where you go when you're just presented with a mass of cones. I mean, there are all sorts of different routes possible, but thankfully everyone is well rehearsed in trying to pick out where they need to stay left and right of, but that does take a bit of muscle memory, I'm sure, to train.
It's like an autocross course, Johnny, and
yeah,
you sort of see it for the first time and go, okay, so I'm not supposed to hit any of these, but there's a course to go. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a distinct lack of arrows for me, but
Yeah.
I'm sure, as I say, that's a honed thing from Thursday of this week if not before.
I'm curious to see whether or not they've left the duct tape across the rear screen camera in the cockpit of the car that Jan Halen put on.
They have, and not only have they left it, but they've adjusted it so that it's even more efficiently covering up the camera. We decided that because because you're allowed to clean the windows and the mirrors, and effectively that's a mirror, then taping over counts as cleaning. So I think that was a bit of work that was done overnight, and it was allowed as it was just dealing with windows and mirrors.
That's very fair. Is Robert Renner going to pit this lap? He's got 38 seconds to make up his mind.
Let's wait and see. We'll keep our eyes peeled on the pit lane entry. The HB Ferrari's just heading through the long, lingering right-hander at 16 and 17. And we can go back to the pits to hear from Trent Hinman now with Joe.
Trent, great to watch. How good was it from where you were?
It was a little bit wild. I mean, 11 hours left to go in the race, and we're fighting pretty hard there. But just the way, I mean, any long-distance endurance race that I've been a part of, it always goes like that. I mean, these cars are obviously so reliable. Obviously, every team is doing a hell of a job up and down pit lane, but these Park Place guys are really giving me something special here. So for a Gen 1 GT3R, I think we're holding our own pretty well. Double stinted tires there were definitely pretty entertaining too, especially by the end. You watch the predictive timer and you just want to beat yourself over the head with a dash because it just keeps going down and down and down. But hey, at the end of the day, you know, we're out here, we're putting up, I think, one hell of a fight, and you know, we're just going to keep plugging along. 11 hours left, it's plenty of time.
As a driver training exercise, it was a great, it was textbook in how to defend and how to be offensive from Shane as well. Two great drivers going at it. It may not sound that important position-wise with 11 hours to go, but it kind of is, isn't it? You don't want to give up any ground, even at this stage.
I mean, again, you know, these long-distance endurance races, especially the 24-hour races, are so hard fought right from the get-go. So, you know, I think anybody who says, well, qualifying doesn't really matter, well, you know, our position at hour 20 really doesn't matter. Well, no, it absolutely does. Because that's just, you know, you're breaking that race apart from the finish to the start, right? So you've got to kind of meet where your expectations are in terms of strategy, in terms of you know, track position, and especially with GT3 racing, it's so hard to get track position on the racetrack. So it's a tough balance there, but you're absolutely scrapping for every single inch of real estate that you can get.
And long may it continue. Thanks for talking to us, Trent. Cheers.
Thank you.
Trent Hinman from the 73 Park Place prepared Porsche, but running with the Volt backing, Volt lighting backing, and therefore entered as Volt Racing. So that car rejoining in 5th place. Max Edelhoff is just about on the same lap as that car and about to cross the line now in the Car Collection Motorsport machine. And then, not very far away on the road at least, is Nikolai Rogivu, still working very hard behind the wheel of the HB Racing Ferrari, but there are laps between Brynjolfsson and Rogivu.
Yeah, the difference is that Max Edelhoff will be going past the Volt Racing Porsche now. In fact, just has gone past, going up onto the next lap, whereas the Ferrari, still with Nikolai Rogivu at the wheel, and he's been in the car since the beginning of the race, so he's probably only got about 20 minutes to go on his drive time before he'll be coming in. But Nikolai Rogivu still 2 laps behind the Volt Racing Porsche, which is up in the refueling area.
Brake change going on for the Lamborghini, the sole Lamborghini in the field. That's an XPX entrant for Lippert Motorsports. Now, where do we stand on championship right now, Paul? Because they're still in line to try and take a team's championship, are they not?
Lippert, yes.
Yes.
In the GT division, absolutely right, and as long as they finished, I think, in 1st or 2nd or even 3rd place in the SPX class, so in other words, as long as they finish within 60% of the leader, then they will cart off the team's championship. It is very close, but the Lippert team coming into the championship with a 3-point advantage over Car Collection. Car Collection currently in 2nd place in the AM class, so it's points from whichever class you're in, but 2nd place in the AM class won't score as many points as a win for Lippert. Even if they both finish 2nd, it will still preserve Lippert's advantage in the GT championship. The drama that we almost had was when Hindhoff was here, and he saw the 112 Golf going off into the barriers, and that car needs to finish in order to win the championship of the continents in the TCE division. And it's now going again, the 112 car, down in 5th place in the class, and that is high enough up the positions to still secure the championship, but it does mean that the Autorama car does still have to keep going, having had a brake failure, which was what caused the car to go off.
The 112 is the Volkswagen running with the yellow door mirrors, so if you're out around the circuit or able to watch the pictures, that's the way you can tell them apart. The 114, the sister car with the red door mirrors.
And at the moment, it's championship rival AC Motorsport with their Audi car 188 scoring 26 points for this event. Autorama 112 scoring 18, but that is sufficient. They'd win the championship by 6 points. However, for this race in isolation, the 101 TCE Series leader is the Red Camel Jordans.NL Cupra, and Joe's just watched the stop for that.
Yeah, pretty standard. Front tyres only on the 101 Cupra of the Red Camels car. Stephen Licorice has gotten out. I didn't see who got in, but perhaps Stephen can tell me. Just looking at the tyre wear on this front-wheel drive Cupra, and it's a pretty standard thing. The inner edge of the tyre is pretty gone. The rest of the tyre looking pretty fit, but the inside edge is where it gets all its wear. Let's dive in and speak to Stephen before he... Oh, a little pat on the back. You've done a good job there, Steve. You got a pat on the back from Rick.
Yeah, must be a good job if Rick gives you a pat on the back. So yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So how did you feel? Are you equally as happy?
Yeah, I mean, I've not been in a front-wheel drive for 10 years, so I'm an old man. I mean, I know the pros moan about it. I heard what's his name moaning about it the other day, but it takes me longer to get into it, so it's taken me a long time to really just get my rhythm back, slow the car down, not veer it off, and all the rest of it.
What aspect then, just to give our listeners and viewers an idea, Stephen, you're more familiar of the last 10 years with rear-wheel drive cars. I remember Porsches, Carrera Cup and stuff. So what are the main vagaries between those two different concepts?
Yeah, well, I've been driving Lambos as well for the last 3 years, the Hurricane Trofeo, and before that the Porsche. And you tend to have a much lower minimum speed, so you'll really V the corner off to get the power down, but these things have obviously got no power, so you have to carry much more mid-corner speed and be more patient with the throttle. But you know, it's just a thing that's ingrained after 10 years. It's difficult to get it out there. But
and you've got Rick in your ears saying save the tyres as well while you're pushing into the corner. Yeah,
exactly. And I think, you know, that stint there as well, I really focused on trying to look after the tyres and just keep some consistent times. And yeah, it seemed as though it was sort of working, so it's all good.
You guys are going, I'm looking at exit, you're going really well. I mean, the thing about the TCR class is it's always so very close, so the simplest of slip-ups can knock you back down the field. But you guys just sticking with the strategy, not being dragged into anything?
No, I mean, I think one of the things that came up there on me towards the end of the stint was traction control and how much it feels like the car's losing power. And I was on the radio to the team saying, guys, the engine's down on power. And they said, no, it's just the traction as the tyres are getting worn. So it's a learning curve.
Look how worn that tyre is, Stephen. That's why the traction control was coming in. I don't think you've got any tread on there. No, there's very little tread on there. Just looking at that inside edge, there's the main cut. That's why the traction control is kicking in. There's no rubber left.
Absolutely, and it's tough trying to be smooth and just keep out the throttle and just try and carry the speed and just get that feeling of what grip you have got just to carry the corner speed.
And I can see you're enjoying it. Do you prefer the long distance races over the sprints?
I think you get a great team atmosphere, right? You know, I mean, sprint is great when you're younger, but you know, I want to enjoy my racing, and you come along and the team are looking for a 10th in qualifying, and you know, it gets pretty tough, whereas this is a little bit more relaxed. So.
I understand that. It's great to have you here. Great to have you in the series. Good to see you. Stephen Licorice there, a stalwart of UK racing, and certainly enjoying his time at the 24 Hours at COTA.
Yeah, as he says, background in Porsches with Team Parker at Porsche Carrera Cup GB level in the sort of early 2010s, but then discovered Creventic Racing and has done a number of Dubai 24 Hours now, and also more recently in the European-based Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship, both at AM and Pro-Am level. So a mixture of sports cars, but it's been a long, long time since he's driven front-wheel drive.
And this year running in the Lamborghini Middle East Championship in the Pro-Am category, top 3 in every single round of that championship. So he has done a bit of Lambo this year, and quite successfully too.
The 101 car then that Stephen Licorice has just exited was taken over by Jeremy Daniel. I don't think we ever mentioned that. So the Red Camel Jordans.nl car leading the class, and by 2 minutes and 27 seconds ahead of Stefan Tanner's 114 Autorama Motorsport by Wolf Power Volkswagen Golf. So that's not the championship rival of 188. 112 needing to finish to stay ahead points-wise of the 188 car. The 112, though, with its dramas, quite a way back now, having completed 284 laps in comparison to the sister machine with 289 to its name, and the class leader, the race leader in TCE, 290 laps completed.
Car 911 slow out on the circuit there, causing a bit of a blockage for Felipe Fraga there. He had to take to the curbs to avoid going into the back of the Porsche Lorient car. 911, I don't think he's going to stop on the circuit. He's in limp home mode, so hopefully he'll be able to get back to the pits safely without going to code 60. What we can do, though, is go down to Joe Bradley in the pits.
Well, we've just witnessed a fantastic Porsche versus Mercedes battle. We spoke to Trent Hindman a few minutes ago. Now let's get the other side of the story from Shane Lewis, who was at the wheel of the 85 CP Mercedes. Shane, you're always smiling, but it was a bigger smile after that. That was brilliant to watch.
Well, it was awesome. I know Trent real well. I have a huge amount of respect for him in a race car, so when you know the guy that you're wheel-to-wheel with, that makes all the difference in the world. I hope everybody else got a chance to see it. You can see where the strength of the Porsche is, sometimes the strength of the Mercedes is. The biggest, toughest thing for me was I would tuck up underneath them in the carousel, which was 16, 17, 18, and we're missing a dive plane in the front and a few things, and aero-wise, my car would just shoot away from me. So I could only get so close to him in certain areas. We were both hurting for grip and a couple of stuff, but that was an epic battle. I wish it was still going on.
You've just confirmed Hindhoff's commentary, because that's exactly what he said. You got right under the Porsche's aero wash and you just lost out. How I would describe it, Shane, was textbook racecraft. If you've got a young driver, show them the footage of you guys battling out there. You could see the respect, giving each other room. It was awesome to watch.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple times it went back and forth, and there's a couple places I could have gave it to him and back, but I could tell, it was Trent, and I know he's a smart young guy to where, he knows not to hurt that car because it's a 24-hour race. This is my, almost 50th 24-hour race, and won a lot of them, and I want to win this one. So I want to win this one for the guys, and I know not to put a wheel wrong or a foot wrong or a dive plane wrong. So a lot of respect, but at the same time, we're race car drivers, and we're out there battling and having fun, and we both want to go to the front.
I'll ask you the same question. Even with 11 hours to go, it's still important to gain and not lose track position.
Yeah, very much so. The series here, even though Creventek is probably the warmest, most friendliest group of endurance races that you could ever possibly go to, the battles are very keen and they're very tough, and everybody's pushing really super hard. Also, we get in lap traffic, and the guys in the TCR cars and the GT4 cars, they're pushing hard, and you got to have some respect to them, but at the same time, navigating that traffic of where they're going to be, and the Hankook tires holding up really well, really, really great. I'm impressed with it, but at the same time, there's tire debris everywhere on the racetrack, so if you get off a little bit, it's a real tough one.
What happens then, Shane? Just give our listeners an idea. We're talking about pickup. So if you go offline, you get additional rubber picked up onto the tyre. What does that do exactly?
Well, the tough part was we got here this morning, and thank you to the people at COTA. They cleaned the racetrack in our break last night. So I thought, all right, first stint, it's going to be great. And about 4 laps in, I'm like, it's not going to be good. That tire rubber came up, really big. Some of the difficult part is that once it clumps up and gets on your tire, it takes a couple corners to get off. And also, sometimes they become missiles. I've had a couple of guys being behind, they throw it off the back of their tire, it hits the windshield, kind of screwed up one of our tear-offs a little bit. So, and I'm not convinced that's not what happened to a dive plan. Not sure that it was a car that anybody got into, but it might have been just some tire debris.
Great stuff. Once again, Shane, I wish you guys had fuel enough for 11 hours of that, but alas, we've got a pit stop.
Gotcha. Just tell me when Trent's back in so I can go do this with him again. So
he said the same.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks, Shane. Shane Lewis.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable to watch, and clearly for the two gentlemen involved, really fun to actually take active part in. So Shane Lewis is going to step away now for a little pause, and a moment or two ago the 911 Porsche Lorient car struggling as we described, and it was grinding to a halt. Now the 911 Porsche from the French outfit, from the west side of France, just touring its way through and hampering the 112 car right in the middle of the bend. I think that car just trying to stay out of the way as best possible, but it also caused an issue for the race leader in the GT series, Felipe Fraga, who had to take avoiding action as that Porsche Cup car from the 991 class got back up to speed. And Eric Muez now into the pit lane with the blue door mirrored 911. Sometimes Porsche Lorient, particularly in the European races, turn up with two cars, the other one numbered 912, but just the lone machine in competition this weekend. And Lorient, I think, are going to guide that car directly into the garage to try and fix the issue.
Meanwhile, back to the battle between Volt and CP Racing. He described how Charlie Putman and Adam Brynjolfsson has taken over the Porsche. It's not over yet. There's still only 9 seconds between them out there. Charlie Putman is, I think, he's lapping pretty much in the same kind of lap times as Brynjolfsson, and just separated by those 10 seconds. It's entirely feasible that before the end of their respective stints, they're going to be at it hammer and tongs, just as Trent and Shane Lewis were, Trent Hindman and Shane Lewis were. So keep our eyes on that battle. Daniel Alleman has taken out the 91 Herbert Motorsport Porsche again, and as a result of that pit stop, he has now dropped back to 3rd place again. So the Top Sport Mercedes moves up to 2nd. So it's now Fraga, now with his 2-lap lead, once more back intact. So Fraga sitting on this 2-lap cushion, but he will be in the first of the 3 of them. So it's Fraga comes in first, then Henrik still comes in 2nd, and then Daniel Alleman will come in the 3rd of them. And when each of them make their pit stop, they lose round about a lap and a half or 2 laps, getting the tyres fuel that they need to carry on. So what it means is that Fraga can stay in the lead, but the gap of his lead shrinks from being 2 laps down to being about 45 seconds.
Coroys has brought the 717 Mark II V8 into the pit lane. Joe Bradley's watching the stop, but there's one or two issues here.
All very normal, JP. Core got out. It was Thorson who's the next driver in the rotation. However, the left rear wheel will not come off. We've had this before where they've had to grind away at the wheel rim, and right now this left rear wheel is stuck on the hub. We've seen this before many times. I don't know. I thought they might have addressed this by maybe, dressing the inside edge of the wheel, but it's kind of, it doesn't want to come off. They're tugging and tugging and tugging. And I remember the last time I witnessed this, it was the first run when COTA USA Racing brought this car out. Now they've got it off, but it's still a problem, isn't it? It's the little pegs that locate the car on the hub. They're expanding and becoming really tight on the hub and the locating holes, and that's what the problem is. However, we had a mechanic just go into the back of the car, pretty much diving into the diffuser and kicking it with the back of his heel from the inside edge of the wheel, and that's done the trick. The car was about to go in the garage. They haven't needed to do that, and thankfully and happily it's on its way.
So 717 moving again, and there was also an issue for the 112 Volkswagen Golf from Autorama Motorsport. This being sent now down pit lane with Yannick Mettler having brought that car in. It's reached the fueling area, but that car has been in the pits now for, well, just over 6 minutes. So it's been in the garage briefly and has now been wheeled back out again. But obviously they're going to have to nurse this car to the finish because of the dramas for it earlier on in the race.
I think the problem, which we didn't quite get to the bottom of, we were told that the problem was a braking issue for the 112 car when I think it was Nick Damon interviewed Konstantin Kletzer, but we didn't quite get to the bottom of what caused the braking issue, whether it was purely the pads disappearing or whether there was a hydraulic issue on the car. But bizarre, isn't it, how you bring two cars along to the racetrack, and the one that you really want to finish highly experiences all the problems, and then the other one, which you just got in there as an insurance policy, runs like clockwork. I shouldn't say that, but the 114 Autorama car has run very well indeed, and is up now into second place in the TCR category.
He's barely done any racing, that's why. The 112's done the whole season, and he's running out of legs.
The 911 Porsche Lorient racing car has made it into the pit lane. It's been there for just under 5 minutes now, and I just wanted to note that when it came in, completed 294 laps, a 19-lap buffer back to the 3rd place in class. So I'm going to keep an eye on that gap, and as it comes down, as they continue working on that car.
Coroy's has just got out of the 717, as Joe's described, and now got a chance to catch up with him.
Cora, you had me really worried there when that wheel wouldn't come off, because we've had that problem before, haven't we? And you know what? It's things like that in racing where we think we need a good engine, we need good tyres, we need good drivers, but then it's just this little wheel peg that can completely screw your race.
Well, 10 laps before the end, I got vibration. I thought it was pickup, but basically the wheel came loose. And then it's eating in the drive packs into the hub, and that's why we can't get it off. So hopefully it won't happen again, but we don't know why it happened.
Yeah, I mean, we've had races where these wheels have... I mean, I can remember the first time you brought this car out, we had to have it was a real massive job. Yeah. Did you guys go in, address that by, I don't know, remodifying the wheel pegs or something, or what?
Well, it's one of the kind, you know. It's the whole weekend, no problem. And once of a sudden a wheel come loose, and luckily the safety clips will hold the wheel on. And I got vibration. I said, well, I think it's pickup, and I kept going. I should have come in, change the tires, and go. You know, that's what it is.
Other than that, you started the race this morning. It's a pretty long stint. That's a very physical car to drive, Cor. You've obviously still got it.
I still got it.
You have. No thoughts of retirement like your teammate Jim?
No, it's all good here, so I continue.
Where's your little guy? Have you not been able to bring him across in your hand luggage?
Yeah, he stayed home.
Stayed home. Of course they would have. You might have lost him in the flight. You don't want to bring that.
They have stolen it a couple of times, but luckily we get it back.
Yeah, I look for. Are you taking him to Dubai?
No, it's not in the container, so...
Get him in the container, Cole. I keep mistaking him for you as well. Anyway, great drive, as ever. Are you back in the car before the finish? I would imagine so.
Yeah, we do another stint, yeah.
And when will Jim have his last stint? Or is it too early?
I think Jim will finish the race, and he will have a stint this afternoon, so...
Okay, we'll get a chance to talk to him on his last ever race. Do you believe him? Is he really retiring? That's what I think. I know. That's exactly what I think. You can't give this thing up.
I will invite him in Holland, and I will put him in a race car. He get the bucks together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know when he'd give up, when we're tapping that last nail into his coffin. It's like all of us. We've got the truth.
I think he will stop if the fat lady sings.
She's not going to sing. She hasn't even got up to bed.
Well, we're making a song and dance about it. If he's not going to, if he is going to turn up next year, we'll all feel a little bit misled by it all. But I think, I don't know, the tears that we've seen already from Pat, his wife, and also I'm sure from Jim, you know, it will become a reality over the next 11 hours that this is the end of a very long racing career. But I'm sure at least one more stint to come before that. Joe?
You know what? When I'm talking to Jim Briodi about it being his, let's celebrate it being his 100th race. And as an addition to that, he talks about retiring and it being his last race. And I'm like, exactly what Cor said there. I'm thinking, yeah, you might think that, but give it 6 months without being in a race car. It's like this really is an addiction. Motorsport is an addiction. And I found, you know what I've always said, I wish I'd found drugs because I would have had therapy and been able to kick it by now. But no, I've still got the addiction. And this is the way I feed my addiction now. But we're all frustrated racing drivers. I race the odd kart race and do whatever. But I will not be surprised if we do not see Jim Briodi coming very sheepishly back into one of our pit lanes and saying, I just done a bit of a Frank Sinatra and I've come out of retirement.
Can I do 101 races? Maybe. The TCE race order as we stand with 13 hours done and 11 to go. Red Campbell, Jordans.nl, they're 101 Cupra TCR currently leading the way then, and it has an advantage of, well, nearly 8 minutes now over the Stefan Tanner Autorama Motorsport by Wolf Power Volkswagen Golf, and that car is still in the fueling area. So right now, as long as Red Camel Jordans.nl keep things neat and tidy, keep hitting their marks, it's looking very much like their race. But of course they've got to also have the reliability of the Cupra TCR, which at times has been questionable in previous races, so we will wait and see. But the similarly engined Volkswagen Golf, because the Cupra and the VW and the Audi for that matter all carry the Volkswagen 2-litre turbocharged engine. Third place, there is an Audi. It's the AC Motorsport 188 car, which is currently being driven by Stefan Perrin. And in fourth position, the top car sport by Bas Kuiten Racing 131 Cupra. That is the car of Kari-Pekka Laaksonen, the Finnish driver. And that car had some problems early on yesterday that it's still recovering from now. The other Autorama Motorsport by Wolf Power Racing car, the one that's had all the difficulties, is in fifth place, the 112 Golf. Monau Competitions Cupra number 107 is in sixth place, ahead of the Zorg Rennsport Cup 1 BMW 851. And Atlanta Speedworks Honda, we lost very early on yesterday, and is now measured as 300 laps down from the GT Series leader, but we're not going to see that Honda Civic back in the race. GT Series led by the Black Falcon Mercedes car number 4 of Felipe Fraga. It has an advantage of 2 minutes and 10 seconds over the Top Sport WRT Mercedes. That's equivalent to 3 laps on the graphic, but probably more like 2 laps in reality once the 90 car crosses the line next. Herbert Motorsports 91 Porsche is in third place. That's another A6 Pro car. And the A6 AM leader is the Car Collection Motorsport number 34 Audi R8 of Max Edelhoff, the car that was very sideways a couple of laps ago, an indication of how hard the young German driver is pushing. Volt Racing's Porsche number 73 is an A6 Pro car. That's 5th overall in GT. CP Racing's Mercedes 6th and 2nd in class, number 85. And the HB Racing Ferrari, another A6 AM entry, car 41 of Austria, in 7th position. Then the Koroiser Racing machine, despite the problems getting the wheel off, Kor still putting a brave face on things, and ever the enthusiast, the Mark II V8 leads its class in 8th. Kelly Moss Roden Races Porsche leads the all Porsche Cup class, the 991 division as it's coined. The car 906 is in 9th position, ahead of the SPX second place car, Lippert Motorsports Lamborghini Huracan, in 10th. 11th place for the Alexander Bohm-driven Black Falcon Team Techstar Mercedes. That's an SPX car. The 991 Porsche Lorient machine came in very slowly indeed a few minutes ago, but the 911 is still in the pits, in fact, and has been now for 12 minutes. ST Racing's BMW M4 is in 13th place, the GT4 leader, ahead of the RHC Jorgensen Strom BMW. The Zorg Rennsport M4 is 3rd in that class, ahead of 2 more 991 class cars, the MRS and the Speed Lover Porsches, 980 and 978. Racers Edge Motorsport 401 car is still running with Ross Smith at the wheel of that car. But then the Top Sport number 70 Mercedes, a retirement. The Winwood Racing Mercedes, a retirement. And 411 and 910 didn't start the race. So there you go. There's your standings for 11 hours to go, 13 hours done. And we've been racing for just over 2 hours today. 10:05 local time. Fair bit of cloud in the sky. The spectator tower, observation tower, still dominating this Circuit of the Americas track, and anyone brave enough to get to the very top deck there can actually walk across a full glass floor to test your nerves. But it does treat you to a fabulous view of this, 5.5 kilometre circuit. What's that in proper measurement?
3.4 miles.
That's much better for me.
And Johnny, honestly, if there's a day to go up the tower, today would be the best one so far, because when you're up there, it's, well, completely unabated from the wind. You have zero protection. And as a spotter, if you have to go up there and the weather has been as it was earlier in the week, you're rethinking a lot of your life decisions as you stand up there. The wind is biting, and you do get that fabulous view of everything that is Circuit of the Americas. And I mean everything. You can see just about every parking lot even. But you do feel as if you're on top of the world watching these tiny little ants dancing around beneath your feet.
And one of those is the 85 Mercedes now, heading through turn 2 and trying to chase down the class leader in A6 AM. So that's Charlie Putman at the wheel of the CP Racing Mercedes in principally a white colour but with the red and blue stripes. And heading now through turn 9 to jet down towards turn 11, the far end of the circuit, and an important hairpin that brings you onto the back straight and into the second sector of the lap. HB Racing's Ferrari just being fuelled, and also door being open now to check on the driver. Not being fuelled, because that's done in a completely different place, but the tyres going on.
Caught my attention there for a moment, Johnny.
And the car is about to, well, I say be pushed back into action. There's clearly a slight issue with it, staring into the cockpit to make sure the driver's doing all that they need to be doing. And Nikolai Rokivu has impressed during that stint. Rokivu, just 23 years old, lots of ADAC Masters experience though, and now the fastest driver in the race, i.e. the fastest lap. But he's raced with Zach Speed in the past in a Mercedes AMG, also some Blancpain Endurance Series action with Aust Motorsport with their Audi R8 LMS. So young Swiss driver making a bit of a name for himself, similar to Klaus Bachler a couple of races ago, although we always knew about how good Klaus Bachler was, but he impressed many at the Portimao 24 hours, in July. Joe, at the 41, they can't get going at the moment. Oh, it finally fires into life, but that took a while.
Yeah, it was kind of helped on its way by the mechanics having to push. I would think that certainly looked to me like a clutch problem. It picked away from its garage apron, just outside of its garage on the pit apron, and then stalled, and then it basically just couldn't pull away. It could barely get any revs into the motor. And let's dive into the team and see if they can tell us, or indeed willing to tell us anything, because that to me was a bit of a clear indication that they've got a clutch problem that will stopping the car, or they may even be pulling away in second gear or something. Let's have a word. Who's just got out of that car, guys?
It's Nikolai Rokivu, who's going to be worth a quick chat to, actually, because he's got the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he's walking off just as I wanted to talk to him. Oh no, he's at the back of the garage. Let's talk to him.
He's also done an hour 57 behind the wheel. It's now 10 past 10.
Can we go to the front of the garage? I've got Nikolai now, guys. He's going to tell us all about his fastest lap of the race. It was impressive. Just going to step in front of Seb with him. Nikolai, that was impressive, fastest lap of the race, but do you know anything about what the problem was with the car being unable to pull away?
I didn't understand the last part.
Do you know anything of the reasons why the car wasn't able to pull away?
We had some clutch issues already in the beginning at my stint, and then it was gone, the issue, and now it was here again, so it's a weird thing. We don't really know why, but we will see what will happen later in the race.
And I suppose once you get moving, the car having to pick away from a standstill isn't a problem, and clearly not a problem because you've just posted fastest lap of the race in that stint.
Yeah, the car felt amazing, and yeah, somehow the oversteer was gone from yesterday. In the night the car was great again, and now in the morning even greater. I think we found out something with the air pressures, so we got the setup good for the car for the race for sure.
And you're feeling good just after that stint. It's a bit of an odd 24-hour race this, with a big gap during the night. Is that something you prefer, or would you rather just go straight through?
Yeah, I would prefer to drive the whole race on one part. It's sad that we need to do like this, but if it is like this, it is so we need to live with it.
Is that because it makes it such a long day? 2 long days, in fact.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise it would be 24 hours on one part, and now we had around 8 hours, I think.
33 and a half hours it will take from start to finish.
Yeah, exactly. But in the end it's racing, and we should drive the cars, and that's what we're doing here.
Great stuff. Thanks for talking to us, Nikolai.
Isn't it funny, Johnny, how the drivers don't like the break, but we do?
We do, yeah, and I'm grateful for it certainly this morning. But I do know what Nikolai means. I mean, some drivers actually want the true test of 24 hours non-stop, and also when they're away from the car and having some rest, the race is still going on, so it means a more compact weekend, I suppose you could say, but it means that it spans 33 and a half hours, as Joe quite rightly says, and it's been about the same margin in the 2 previous years as well.
It's effectively, JP, isn't it? It's actually a 33.5-hour race, because you start focusing and thinking about your race, and I'm sure Paul, as a team strategist, will concur as well. You are in the zone and focusing on everything about what you need to think about the race, and just because we have a break during the night doesn't mean you stop thinking about it. You will continue to think about it, and it's 33.5 hours of focus and concentration. Doesn't matter what role you play.
We never say this about the 12-hour races, though, do we? Where we have a proper, long evening off and then start again at 9 o'clock the following morning on the Saturday.
I think I was worried for a moment there about the Ferrari, because it seemed to hiccup a little bit as it was on its out lap. It was just coming out of sector 1 and seemed to go very slowly indeed, but it seems to have recovered from whatever it had. Just realised I've blanked out Chase screen for. Sorry about that. But no, going back to the point about the way that the race is structured. I mean, Johnny and I do a lot of commentaries where you end up doing a full day commentary on a Saturday and on a Sunday, to start a day at 8 o'clock on a Saturday and then go through till 6 o'clock or so in the evening on Saturday night, and then get up early on a Sunday morning, do the same thing. It's kind of normal for us. It's normal for marshals. That's kind of what they do. But for teams and for drivers to have a full day followed by another full day is actually relatively rare.